football rundown. This video is a little bit later than I planned to. I planned to do it Sunday morning. It's now coming out Tuesday evening, just before France take on Spain in the Euro 2024 semi-final, the first semi-final, because don't forget, of course, England have got Holland in the semi-final tomorrow evening, and of course in today's video we are going to talk about the Euros, Euro 2024 and the semi-finals. We'll start with France-Spain, and I said France-Portugal then. Of course, France played Portugal in the quarter-final. It was a tight game, went down to penalties. I thought Portugal did okay actually in the game. France haven't impressed me much throughout the tournament, to be honest. I know a lot of criticism has been, has gone England's way for style of play, how they've managed the game. But I don't think France have been brilliant either. In fact, you could argue France have been just as bad, if not worse, than England. And it's strange because you would have France as one of the favourites for the tournament. So I suppose, on one hand, looking at it that way, looking how far France have got without really playing very well at all, without really putting many goals in the back of the net, that gives us confidence that maybe England can do the job. I suppose another way of looking at it is France to have that little bit of star quality in Kylian Mbappe, and maybe it's just a ticking bomb before he shows that quality, and maybe there's a feeling that he'll get back to his best in these last few games, of course, the semi-final tonight and possibly that final if they make it there. France, for me though, I would rather have France than Spain, to be honest, if England get to the final, because Spain have played very well throughout the tournament. I'd say the two best teams in terms of the best teams on paper going into the tournament, you've maybe got 5 or 6 teams, and Spain and Germany are in there. Spain and Germany are the only top teams that have really played good football throughout the tournament. So Spain have actually played well, getting to the semi-final. They're the only team left in the the only team left in the semi-final stage that has actually played good football in order to get there. Holland have scraped past, France have scraped past, England have scraped past, Spain have played well and they earned the victory over Germany, knocking them out in the quarter-final. So I'm actually more scared of Spain. I'm scared of Yamal. Williams, I think it is on the other side as well. From those two wingers look terrifying to go up against, and I think Kyle Walker's not at the best tournament, so I'd be very scared of going up against Spain, even though they don't have that Kylian Mbappe type player. They're playing much better as a team, Spain, so I'm very worried. I'd much rather see France beat Spain tonight, and look, we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. How do I think it's going to pan out? I do think that France will probably edge it. I do think that Spain will play good football. I think they'll probably control the game. I think they'll probably deserve to win, but I think France will probably turn on late on, and I think they'll see themselves get into the final. Maybe a little bit of stardust quality from Kylian Mbappe might get him over the line. Obviously, we know I think he's still got the mask as well. That's obviously been a hindrance from during this tournament. I don't know how much it benefits him to have it on. For me personally, when I watched him in the Portugal game, I think he got hit in the face by trying to block a cross. It didn't seem to have or offer too much protection for him. For me, it's a hindrance. It affects his vision, and it's certainly with Kylian Mbappe playing down the middle with that mask on. If you're Portugal in that game, we're happy to invite crosses in, because we know he's not going to go full throttle for those headers like he did in the first game, which is how he ended up breaking his nose in the first place. So for me, if I'm France, I would probably, and Didier Deschamps is a very qualified manager, who am I to criticise? But what I would say is I would probably play Olivier Giroud down the middle and have Mbappe out wide if you're going to play him, because at least then you're not having him in those central positions where balls may go into the box. And if you're France, I think you're losing a little bit of attacking edge by not having an attacking threat in the box, but particularly from crosses. Mbappe, of course, is a brilliant player, but at the moment he's not going for those headers like maybe he would do without the mask. So I think that would be a little bit of a bit of advice for France. Not that they probably need it from me, but I would just say that I think that Spain will play good football throughout the game. I think they'll probably dominate the game tonight, but I do think France will edge it, and I do think they'll find themselves in the final. That brings us on to the second semi-final, England versus Netherlands. Now, I listened to Ren Meulenstein talk on TalkSport about a week ago now, former Manchester United coach, very good to listen to, knows what he's talking about, a very good coach by all accounts as well, during his time at Manchester United. Now, of course, I think he's working with the Australian national team, but he's been all over in football, and he's very, very experienced. He said without a flinch that Netherlands would beat England. When he was asked on TalkSport, he didn't even let Jim White finish the question before saying that Holland would beat England in this semi-final tomorrow. So he's extremely confident. He doesn't think England have a chance. He thinks that Holland will find themselves in the final. I think that England will find themselves in the final. Of course I do. I predict them to get there. But for me, I think with the players we've got better players than Holland. And I think when it comes down to it, Bellingham, Saka, Kane, just to name a few players that have stepped up. They haven't played well, but they've stepped up when it mattered most during this tournament so far. Sure, those players have got to get us over the line against Holland. in terms of Holland's threats, who you're looking at, obviously defensively they're a step up from Switzerland. Stefan de Vrij, of course, Virgil van Dijk's rather. But yeah, the fullbacks aren't particularly brilliant. They're very good going forward. Defensively, they're a little bit suspect. So I think it will offer a different challenge for England. Hopefully, with those fullbacks being very good going forward for Holland, it should offer us a little bit of room in behind. Maybe a little bit of room in behind that Phil Foden hasn't managed to find just yet in this tournament. Maybe a little bit of room that Saka can exploit like he did against Switzerland, which of course got us that equaliser, which managed to get us through into extra time and of course then on to penalties. We've not spoke about that actually, by the way. Gareth Southgate's had a lot of criticism going into this tournament, throughout the tournament, quite rightly so, but I have to say against Switzerland on Saturday, I'm trying to remind myself what day it is now, when we played Switzerland, I thought he got the team right from the get-go. I think the formation change was correct decision by Gareth Southgate, and I also don't think when we went 1-0 down, I really felt just before that goal we needed to change things up necessarily. So he responded very quickly, which again has been a criticism of him. He responded by bringing players on, and straight away we get back in the game again. So I think Gareth Southgate, of course, I would prefer to have someone else in charge. Of course, I would prefer him to make decisions a little bit quicker, but he did just that against Switzerland. It might not be as quick as some people would like, but he did make the changes and he did get us through. And I tell you what, in knockout football, which is what we're in now, it's not about playing good football, it's about survival football. And at the moment, Gareth Southgate just seems to be finding that way to survive and cling on. And now we find ourselves in the semi-final where, of course, an opportunity to reach 2 Euros finals back-to-back. I suppose some people would say, even if we beat Holland, can we beat a France or Spain in the final? I think the answer to that is yes. I think we can beat a France or Spain in the final. I think that we've under Gareth Southgate we've shown that we can beat good teams at times. We've beaten Germany in the Euros last time out. I think we beat Spain in the Nations League, playing really good. Granted, quite a few years ago. I suppose that would be the one challenge that Gareth Southgate hasn't managed yet. We've gone far in tournaments, like we haven't done maybe prior to his appointment. The one thing we have struggled against is when we come up against a top team, and I think there's a feeling now that Switzerland were a good team, well organised, but Holland is a step up in quality. If we manage to pass that test, I suppose it'd be the first time we've really, taken on a really, really high quality team and managed to beat them. So that would give us confidence going into the final. I think if we can beat Holland tomorrow, I think that of course we can find ourselves into the final, and of course we can manage to beat a France or a Spain. On its day. A final is a one-off game, and I think in a one-off game, do England have the ability? Yes, and I think that Gareth Southgate could well see himself with a Euros medal at the end of this tournament. Obviously, we haven't played well, but I think gone are the games now where we can play good football. That was all for the group stage. Like I say, knockout football, it's survival football. We have found a way to survive. We have found a way to get through. It'd be interesting to see how we manage to set up England going into this semi-final game. I actually asked some of you for questions. I didn't get too many questions, to be fair, but one question I did get was, what would the setup formation should we go with to counter the pace of Netherlands 4-3-3? Well, for me, I think that Holland have played Dumfries and Frimpong at times, which are two right backs. Usually Frimpong has found himself on the right wing when he's been in the game, but they can obviously go into a back three or back five at times if they need to as well. They may well look to match us if we decide to go with a back five or a back three, if you like. I think England should stick with the back five or back three, however you look at it, because I think it's the best performance we've put in this tournament. That's not saying much, but the best we played was against Switzerland on Saturday, and that was with the back three, the back five. We just looked a lot more organised, looked a lot more balanced, and I think that it did work. I suppose the conversation would be, Konsa came in because Marc Guéhi was suspended for the quarterfinal. The conversation may well be, does Guéhi come back in? Do you keep Konsa in because Konsa did well? Who do you take out if you bring Guéhi back in? And I think one way you could do it potentially would be to bring Guéhi back in with Konsa and possibly take Stones out, because I think Stones has been an issue. Keep Kyle Walker at right side and centre back, and then of course have Saka at right wing back or right wing. And then if you want to switch to a full back, you can just put Guéhi and Konsa next to one another, put Walker out into right back, Saka high up the pitch on the right wing where he's played anyway. So that would be one way to look at it. In terms of Stones, sorry, like I say, Stones hasn't looked good throughout the tournament. I think he could have done more for the Switzerland goal as well on Saturday. Let me know your thoughts on that. Some people might think that's harsh, but I don't think he did well enough. I think that he could have got a foot to it. I don't think he's looked brilliant throughout the tournament. Like I say, his distribution, he's playing out from the back. The passes haven't been convincing. he just looks shaky, and I think Mark Gay's made him look, really, really poor, and I think that even Konsa made him look really, really poor on Saturday. So those two have performed well when they've played for England in this tournament. I would go with those two. It's a big call to drop Stones, but that's what I would personally do. And then I think you've got to have a conversation about Phil Foden. Hasn't really performed. Bellingham's not performed. Kane hasn't performed. But the difference is they've scored goals. They've got us over the line. Phil Foden hasn't contributed with a goal, or maybe even an assist that's got us through to the next round. So I would look at that and say possibly Phil Foden needs to be dropped. Let me know your thoughts on that. If he does get dropped, do you maybe go with a 3-5-2 and bring Ivan Toney or Ollie Watkins in alongside Harry Kane? Do you look to maybe bring in another midfielder? Maybe you look to maybe bring in an Eze or someone like that, or maybe a Cole Palmer in for Foden. But I think if I was to make too many changes to the team, if I was going to make any changes to the team, I think Stones coming out maybe, and possibly Phil Foden being dropped. They can still have an impact off the bench, but they haven't performed well enough to be back in this team for me. I think the rest of the team has been pretty much spot on. Maybe there's an argument about Luke Shaw coming in for Kieran Trippier on the left, but whether or not he's got the fitness for that, he looked all right. He looked half decent when he came on Saturday. So maybe I would start Shaw left back. Like I say, he's not usually the type of player that takes him too long to get back into the swing of things. So hopefully, if he does start the game, which I wouldn't be necessarily opposed to, hopefully he can have a good start. And like I say, of course, Luke Shaw was the man to score the goal, the first goal, the only goal for England in the Euros final 3 years ago. So maybe he can have a somewhat similar impact if he starts the game in this semi-final tomorrow. But it'll be interesting to see how Gareth Southgate sets up this England team for a semi-final. And of course, we'll have the conversation should England win tomorrow, how does Southgate settle things for that final against either France or Spain? It'll be very interesting. But like I say, I do think that you'll see France in the final, and I do think England will get into the final. Whether or not that's extra time penalties, I can't predict that, to be honest, but I would say that I think it will go late on, down to the wire, certainly the last sort of 5 minutes of normal time, if not extra time and penalties. I think both games could go all the way, to be honest, so it'll be interesting to watch the game tonight and see who England, if they do get to the final, who they may face in the final. We'll know at the end of tonight. But as I say, want to get your thoughts on this. Who do you think will win the match tonight? Who do you think will be in the final? Do you think England can do the job against Holland? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hopefully England and football is coming home.